Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about the pros and cons of being a veterinary technician, whether you're licensed or not. But since some people are in school to become a veterinary technician, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, that's, up to you guys. Although I've noticed that 2 versus 4 year, there's not much of a difference when you obtain the license. Not many jobs ask if it was 2 or 4, but I know some people would like to get their bachelor's degree and say, I got that. So sometimes people go for that, but usually people like 2 years just to get it over with and start working. So personal preference. I personally did a 2 year program in person. I know you can also take it online. I felt that in person was much better because if you have questions, you can answer right then and there. And also, too, you get to socialize with other people and meet people who are going for the same thing as you. And, you kind of build yourself a little community. And especially since it's a 2 year or 4 year program, you're going to be with those people a lot. So building bonds with them is very important. And don't make enemies at all because you'll be stuck with that person. And believe it or not, the animal field is in a way very small, so everyone actually knows each other somehow or some way or through someone. You can take that as a pro or con, up to you. So I'm going to start with the pros. Obviously, we'll start with the positives. So, of course, being a veterinary technician, number one, you can work with animals. You can work with all kinds of animals, your typical cats and dogs to birds. You can work with fish, you can work with bunnies, you can work with horses, pigs. You name the animal, you can work with it. Of course, it depends if you want to. That's up to you. And then, like I said, the field is small. So as a pro, you get to meet so many people and you get to learn so much. And in that sense, too, as another pro, you can travel as a technician and go on missions across in different countries or even across the United States or wherever you live. I live in the United States, so I said that. So that was me. And it's a lot of programs you can look up that will let you travel. It's really, really interesting. And of course, if you're in a program and you have your license, oftentimes having your license or intent to have your license once you're graduating and going for your license, a lot of places will hire you because they know you're going to get it. And a lot of people lately are looking for people who have their license, so that is definitely a perk to have on your side. As well, as another pro is that being in this field, there is, I remember there was a statistic given to us in school that for every two doctors, there's only one technician. So, or every four doctors, there's one technician. So basically saying that we're needed. So our job is in very high demand, which makes finding one very, very simple. So if you need to find a job as soon as you're out of school, or even while you're in school, you can maybe be working as an assistant or shadowing, or maybe even as a technician and you're still waiting just to get your license, then, more power to you. A lot of people will be like, did you get it yet? Did you get it yet? Or, something along those lines, something to be more supportive so you can achieve your goal. So those are my pros of being a veterinary technician. And I personally might have forgot some, but I'm going from off my experience. Also, too, when you're working with people, you're just going to learn so much. So don't be nervous. When you're in school, you can only learn so much and they can only teach you so much. And because it's the medical field, it's always growing, it's always changing. There's always something new. The laboratories will always tell you, change this test, change the way you do it. So even if you learned it one way, it could totally change another way. And now the cons. Unfortunately, working as a veterinary technician, which is an animal nurse, you do not get paid a lot. And sometimes people, no matter their job, will never feel like they don't get paid enough. But statistically speaking, we get the lower end of the stick. Some places will be ranging from about 16, 18 to about 25, 26. Honestly, it depends on work experience. But if you're just getting into the field, those numbers might be the lower side, might be more realistic. But of course, you can always try to bargain that you have your license or you're going for it. So they might give you maybe like 18, 20 starting off, which is still great if that is also the first job you've ever had. So if you're looking to make a lot of money, unfortunately, this field is not the field, but a lot of people sometimes work in two animal hospitals or in two different locations as a technician, and they make it work. If you want to be that type of person that is driving really hard to, pay bills and have finances that are up to here, maybe the field is not for you. I personally also too have a hard time with, finances. Everybody's got them. So that's something to take into consideration. Of course, a lot of people will say, if I love what I do, then what does it matter? And you know what? It's true. If you love what you do, what does it matter how much you get paid? But unfortunately, life happens and, you have finances. So if it's not something that you think you can afford, maybe it's not something to stay with forever. Definitely, I think it's a job that, you know, would be satisfying because, you get to work with animals. Animals are fluffy and cute and adorable, except for things that are prickly, like snakes or, reptiles. Um, so that's up to you. But of course, if you don't have any concerns about that, then go for it. And another con about this job is the emotional toll it will take on you. Of course, like in human nursing, you get sometimes attached to your patients, and when things go good, it is amazing. But if it goes bad, then it is certainly a different type of experience. Now, some practices or places will actually offer counseling for you if you become depressed or stressed or just can't handle the job. There have been plenty of times where I or my coworkers have just said, we had a hard case and we're like, I need a minute. And you should never be ashamed to say, I need a minute, because, you are doing this job because you love animals. So therefore, you're getting attached to them. And if something bad happens, it affects you. And I think it's important to always remember about yourself too and take time for yourself and reflect. This job can become very consuming very fast, and it is important to have your life aside from your job. And I think that's something a lot of people in my field sometimes forget, because you do work a lot. That could be another con in addition to this. You do work a lot in order to make what you need to make. And being tired and stressed and depressed, can really add up and affect a person. And, maybe it's just where you're working and you can go somewhere else and the level of stress is completely different. An emergency hospital, you'll have that kind of stress. But if you handle things at a quick pace, then it'd be fine. I worked at an emergency hospital for about a year. And honestly, after the first few emergencies, you get the hang of it. Possibly you don't become stressed or too depressed in emergencies, because unfortunately the animals might not be there that long, only a matter of a few minutes to seconds that you have with them. But still, you respect, I always respected animals that would pass away. I'd take a moment and then walk away, and if they had owners or if it was whatever the situation was, I was always respectful. And then it's always something that you should keep in mind, because if your pet, something happened to your pet and people weren't respecting it, I would be really upset and probably angry in that moment. So it's always good to pay attention to that. So those are the cons of this job. Now, it's completely and entirely up to you what you want to do, but I'm just giving you my insight. I think it is a great career, but unfortunately, finances, people, money is a thing in this world. So money, stress, and depression. But if you're really good at handling stress, then, go for it. And if you have no concern about, finances at the moment or in the future, then go for it. If, you might have a partner and you guys can do it, then do it. I think that you will definitely come home with a lot of animals, depending wherever you work. And this is another pro I'll actually throw into the previous ones I had before. Having your license allows you to work in other areas except for animal hospitals or animal clinics or emergency hospitals. You can work in research, which doesn't mean you're actually performing experiments on animals. It is just you're basically the defense for the animals before anything happens to them. So you make sure those animals are healthy and properly cared for, regardless of what's going to happen to them in the future. That's some concept that a lot of people get confused or have an unclear answer about. So if you want to work in research, which are sometimes universities or hospitals, go for it. And there's a separate exam for that. And sometimes the job will pay for you to take the exam. It depends where you go. So I don't want you to think that you can only work in an animal hospital. No, you can even work on a farm. You can even work for the military. You can work for the police. You can work in a lot of locations with your license. And I know in this field too, you'll meet people who have been technicians who don't have their license. And you know what? Don't rule them out. Do not rule them out because they don't have a license. I've learned plenty of important and helpful tips and techniques by those individuals. And I feel bad because sometimes people look at them in a different way, but you shouldn't. Licensed technician, age technician who's been grandfathered in, without a license, you guys have the same goal in mind, the benefit of the animals that are in front of you. So never forget that. And always be open to new suggestions and ideas in this field, because sometimes it can get very frustrating and get very hectic and get very busy. And sometimes you can be really bored. Sometimes you'll be quiet and you have to find things to do like restock or something else. So those are my pros and cons on being a veterinary technician. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave a comment. You can always message me, anything you want. I'm here to help. Okay, guys, have a good day.